All right, pasta day today. All right, I'm gonna start on making very basic, simple pasta dough. Oh, those are some eggs. Very simple, straightforward pasta dough recipe today. Those are eggs. We're gonna talk all about those in a second. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. First thing we're going to talk about is the flour that we're going to use. All right. So in this bowl is your traditional all-purpose flour. In the U.S., we talk about all-purpose flour, baking flour, pastry flour, all those different kinds of things. What they basically boil down to is the amount of protein that's in the flour. All right. All-purpose flour is kind of the middle of the road. This here is what's referred to as a 00 semolina flour. All right. 00 refers to the grind. All right. So it's a much finer, powdery grind than the all-purpose stuff over here. All right. What people generally think when they see the finer grind is that it has a lower protein content. Why is protein important? Well, that's where you're going to get your gluten comes from. All right. 00 semolina flour that we're using today, very similar protein content to that of a traditional all-purpose flour. So it's going to be not too much of a difference there. All right. Simple pasta recipe is very basic ingredients. All right. So we've got our semolina flour. We got Julian's favorite with these. What is it? Eggs. All right. So 3 eggs. We got 2 cups of semolina flour there. All right. We have 3 eggs that have been sitting at room temperature. All right. Large eggs. Okay. The recipe doesn't specify what size eggs you're using. All right. Always using large. The 00 flour, we're in the middle of a quarantine crisis where flour, it seems like everybody seems like they're baking. So not the easiest thing to come by, normally, never mind in a quarantine. So this was ordered on Amazon. They're 2.2 pound bags, like $27. So it's expensive, but for this is totally worth it. Totally different, effect on the structure of the pasta and the texture. So totally worth it. Popular in a lot of pizza dough recipes as well, but today obviously we're focusing on pasta. So semolina 00 flour. Well in the center. You say well. Can you say well?
Yeah.
Well. All right. So we've got 2 cups of our semolina flour here. All right. Okay, buddy. All right. We've got 3 eggs. All right. So we're gonna pour the eggs right into the center bud. Perfect. All right. To that, we're gonna put some salt, about a teaspoon, and a little bit of olive oil. All right. From here, we're gonna start to slowly make our dough. All right. So we'll break up the yolks. And we're gonna start to whisk. All right. And as we go around, we're slowly incorporating some of the flour. Now you can use a fork and try to be all refined and fancy, which is great, but I think cooking is a lot about feeling and having fun. Pasta, it can be an incredibly relaxing and fun experience, so we're going to go in with a claw and just start. Folding in half and pushing with the heel of our hands and rotating it a quarter of a turn and repeating the process. If the dough's a little tacky, we'll bring a little more of that flour back in. Okay. Fold it, and push, and rotate, fold it, and push, rotate, fold it, push. Alright. So we're going to continue to knead this. We're probably looking at about 10 minutes. Alright. Really looking to start developing the gluten. Alright. You'll see in the end puzzle that there's comments about the 2 different properties in flour that when they combine they create gluten. Alright. So we'll talk about that. And just continue to knead this until it gets nice and smooth and elastic. Alright. And kind of enjoy the process. It's going to take some time. We want it nice and smooth. All right, so we've been kneading for about 9 minutes. Nice and smooth. All right, when you push down on it, springs back nice and quick. All right, what I'm gonna do here is just flatten it out a little bit. All right, I'm gonna wrap it in plastic wrap. I'm just gonna walk away and let it sit. Right at room temperature for at least a half an hour. We're gonna let ours go for probably about closer to an hour, just so we can give a chance for all that gluten that we just worked so hard to stretch and relax, stretch and stretch and stretch, to relax and kind of chill out on us a little bit. So that makes a little bit of the rolling process easier for us. So we'll wrap this up and we'll see you in an hour. Thumbs up. All right. So our dough has been resting for about an hour, so we're ready to start the fun part and actually rolling it out. So the dough has been nice and tightly wrapped, left at room temperature. At this point, we'll unwrap it and cut it into quarters. That's okay. All right. The other 3/4 that we're not going to use right now, I'll wrap back up, put aside.
Don't put this back on.
And then we've got our piece of dough that we're going to work with now. All right. Pliable, seems happy, so we'll see what happens. So let's get some more of that 00 flour. We're just going to lightly flour our rollers, as well as the landing zone for where this dough is going to come out. All right. And very lightly flour the dough itself. All right. A bunch of different numbers on the dial of this pasta roller. All right. With this particular model, 0 is the widest. All right. So when there's that 0. The two rollers that are inside here are the farthest apart, all right, and as the numbers go up, those rollers get closer and closer together, and resulting in thinner and thinner pasta being rolled out on the other side. All right, so the first thing we'll do is we're going to flatten it out a little bit, and we're going to roll it through on 0. All right, so roll. Comes through, we're going to fold it like a business letter. For those who don't know what a business letter is, that's 5/3, okay? And back in again. All right, go ahead and crank. Good job. Right. Fold it in thirds again. Crank. We're going to repeat this process 4 or 5 times. All right. What this is doing is smoothing out the dough. Okay. And getting it nice and smooth. Right. Go ahead and crank. Good job. Nice and gentle.
Again.
Do it 2 more times.
Wow, I'm making a big in there.
Making a big in there. All right, so this is the last time we'll go through on the 0 setting. At this point, we'll start progressing forward. Don't have to fold it anymore. All right, just keeping an eye on the dough as it comes out, making sure it's not tearing. At this point, we'll be spot checking for consistency. If it's too dry, adding a little bit of moisture. If it's too tacky, we can add a little more flour to it. So we'll just crank this up to 1. All right, Julia. We'll roll. I like to roll through twice with that first dip for each time, just to make sure that it's nice and consistent. Okay. I'll go for 2. This first batch we're going to do a fettuccine. All right. So we've got a very basic Alfredo sauce going on the stove behind us, some roasted chicken, and then some big pot blanched broccoli. So just to reiterate what big pot blanching is, obviously using a big pot. The reason being is you don't want the temperature of that water to drop down, and then we shock the vegetables once they're cooked, so dropping in the nice water to stop that cooking process. So we're going up to the 4. All right, keep cranking. Good job.
Put it down.
Yes, chef. That's the 4. Go up to 5. That's good.
I put it on as my plate. I put it down right here.
Yeah, once it gets a little bit thinner, just we're starting to get a little transparent. We're not quite there yet. That's a 5. My guess is we're probably gonna get up to about 7. When we're,
But that's right here.
almost. All right. Keep going. So the dough is almost transparent. All right, I think this is a really good spot for us to saw. All right, so we just slid the machine down a little bit so it'd be easier for you guys to see the product as it comes out. On the other side of this mixture here is the cutters I was talking about. All right, so the wide side over here, your fettuccine, and then thinner noodles over here for your angel hair. Very convenient. It slides right onto the back of the roller. All right. This pasta roller I got right on Amazon. I think it was $52 or something. But if you take care of it, you last. Biggest thing with these is cleaning, right? Never getting it wet. So it's kind of like a rolling pin or a sifter. There's a lot of ball bearings and stuff inside of it. If they get wet, they're going to rust, and it'll never be the same again. So just using a dry towel to clean it. All right. So, Julian, you ready to make some pasta? All right. So we'll feed this through the same way we're feeding it through the rollers, and as it goes through, it's going to cut. You got this fancy tree-looking thing. Which was an impulse bag that can be used to dry the pasta out. All right. In the restaurant, we just used dowels that were fit through milk crates stacked up on the countertop, and it worked out just fine. This looks a little more professional. It's kind of funky looking, kind of this logo. But that's what we use it for tonight. All right. You ready, Julia?
Yeah.
Thumbs up. All right. Alright, so as we slowly feed it through this side here, watch your chin. We get our sliced fettuccine. What do you think of it?
Don't broken. I want to go up on the side.
Other way.
I want to go on the side.
Very independent. That slices our pasta. You can hang it across these little dowels.
Let's want to do the other one.
Yeah, we can do the other one next.
I cut that one.
You want to cut that one?
Look in this one.
Yeah. We'll do the angel hair again. That sound good?
Well, yeah.
Alright, so start cranking. So start going this way.
We'll do it one.
Yep. Keep going. Good job.
Whoa.
Get the hang of it. Good job. Keep going. Spin.
Broken. This time it's broken.
Yeah, perfect. Keep it natural. Alright, so our fettuccine. Alright. So now we're going to do the same process of rolling it from 0 all the way down to the 7 or 8. And the next.
I'll put in this one.
Yep. We're going to do one more batch of fettuccine. So we'll roll that out and slice it. We'll do a little time lapse. And then we'll do the same thing, rolling it from 0 down to, this time we'll probably for the ravioli and tortellini, we'll probably go down to a 9 or a 10. But we'll kind of fight that battle when we get there. But next up here is just rolling from 0 up to 7 again and slicing some more fettuccine. Now we're doing the ravioli, same deal, starting out with a quarter of our dough, starting out with 0, going through trifold, 4 or 5 times before we start rolling and progressing through the numbers and getting thinner and thinner. Since it's a ravioli, right, or ravioli or tortellini, It's going to be twice as thick. There's going to be two pieces squished together. So the ravioli, bottom piece and the top piece. For the tortellini, it's folded in half. All right. So as a result, that dough needs to be thinner before we process it. So we're going to go past that 7. We'll play it by ear as we get there. But the beginning process is the same. Nice and smooth. All right, so now we're going to start progressing through the number. Alright, so I took that piece of pasta we rolled out, ended up going with the 8, alright, rolled it all the way down, trimmed off the ends and sliced it in half, alright. The top half here, which is going to be the furthest, or the piece furthest away from me, I've stretched a little bit larger, just because we're going to need a little more surface area so that we can stretch around the filling. What is the filling? Made a very basic ravioli filling here, ricotta cheese, fresh mozzarella, pecorino romano, a little bit of lemon zest, kosher salt, and some fresh basil, just roughly chopped up. Alright, we'll take this ricotta filling, alright, and go ahead, make some oversized raviolis. Leave one empty spot on the end, something that we'll come back to in a second. So I'll be able to actually a little bit of lukewarm water. It's going to act as a glue around our filling. Liquid measuring device that we'll use to press down. Typically I would use the upside down ring molds, but my ring molds set is in quarantine at the high school, so that's not going to do us any good there. It's working okay. What we're trying to do is just create a nice little seal around the cheese so that it gets locked into place, and so we can push those 2 pasta sheets together to seal. This little wheel cutter that has a kind of a zigzag edge to it, which will give us a nice little decorative cut. called ravioli uovo. What that just means is a ravioli has an egg yolk inside of it, so when you poach it, it can be used as an appetizer. So when you cut into the ravioli, you've got essentially a soft cooked egg that can run out and you incorporate it into, whether you use that as part of the sauce or what have you. Pretty elegant presentation, but more or less relatively easy to make. So that same filling inside of a pastry bag. All right, and we're just gonna make a donut. And inside of that donut, we'll take an egg yolk, drop it in. And same thing as before, a little bit of lukewarm water to help seal it shut. Toss it around. One more piece of pasta dough. Stretch over the top. Trying as best we can to limit any air pockets that are in there. And sealing around the cheese. Overall, the concept is still the same. So we've got our egg yolk sitting inside of our ricotta filling, inside of our pasta dough that we'll poach. Next thing we're going to do is some fresh tortellini. Right. So I've got that pasta again rolled down to the 8, cut into a little square, that's probably 2 inches by 2 inches. We'll take some of that same basil kind of 3 cheese filling, type of small mound in the center. All right. A little bit of water, act as our super glue. We'll fold it in half, kind of like we're making a crab rangoon, if you will. Sealing it shut. We're going to flatten it a little bit. Fold it up on itself, partially. Alright. And then fold the ends in. So 1. Okay. What it gives us is this little twirly. So again, a little square of pasta, some filling, some glue or water, fold in half, push all the air out, flatten it slightly, fold it up on itself, fold, fold.